A 30-year-old Tunisian woman has been killed in a horrific Shamshia crash. 10 prisoners have begun a hunger strike in support of suspended director Alex Dalli, and a Maltese actor has called out a deceduti star after she played down the importance of being vaccinated. All this and more on Lovin Daily. Good evening, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. Jonathan Chile here, joined by Tim Tiakno today. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you enjoyed a spot of sunshine amid the weather, as well as the weather coming over the next week. Unfortunately, we're going to start off today with a bit of a tragic story that occurred late last night in Shamshia. Tim is here with the details. Tim?
Yes, you've probably heard that in Shamshia yesterday there was a very nasty, very tragic traffic accident. A 30-year-old Tunisian woman was run over by a 42-year-old man from Mellira. He was driving a Mercedes, and he was driving at an impact, and unfortunately she passed away. There were 4 other people who also suffered injuries, and yeah, this poor woman was dead on arrival. So medics were called on site to try and administer first aid to her and try to help her out, but it was too late. So you can just imagine the impact of the crash. A very tragic way. I mean, there you are, like just walking across the road, and then suddenly a car comes out of nowhere and ends your life like that. People on the scene described it as horrible, as I'm sure it was.
Yes, so one Maltese father who actually was there on the scene moments after the horrific accident recounted in detail what he saw, what his daughter saw, what his wife saw. You can read that all on lovinmalta.com. But I just want to make a point, this is the hill in Shamshia going up towards Mellira. This is far from the first accident we've seen on that hill. It's a very narrow hill, just 2 lanes only, one going up, one going down. People speed on this hill when it's not chock-a-block with traffic. And as Tim said, both sides are pedestrianized. You've got a beautiful seafront on one side with many tourists, many locals walking there regularly. The woman that was killed wasn't even on the road. She was walking by herself. A car impacted her and killed her while she was on the pavement. So it's really, really shocking. I hope authorities do start considering something to be done with this hill. We've had more than one death there. Just today, this week, last year, another person had died on this same hill in a traffic accident. So maybe it's a cursed week, but I do hope authorities do look into this. And just to note, that's not only the only sad story from today. A 1-year-old toddler is fighting for his life after falling from a balcony in Msida. We'll be definitely covering that in the coming days and weeks to see how his condition goes. But moving on and still talking about potential tragedies, at least 10 prisoners from Malta's Corradino correctional facilities have started a hunger strike in support of suspended director Alex Dalli. So Alex Dalli obviously suspended himself last week after weeks and months of pressure, as 14 deaths happened in prison under his watch. Surprisingly to some, though, at least 10 prisoners have decided to start a hunger strike to call for him to return to prison. Now, many people might be, surprised by this. Alex Dalli is known as a disciplinarian, a man that was very, very hard in trying to get a better sense of safety within prison. He says he got rid of things like drugs within prison, which might lead to, some prisoners dealing with the reality of actually being inside prison every day. It is super boring. If you read our book that we published last year with Daniel Holmes, he recounts exactly what prison life is like, and it is just very, very, very boring. So I'm not surprised that, drugs were prevalent in Malta's prison until recently. Dalli got rid of the drugs, which, changed conditions for prisoners. Some prisoners said they now respect themselves more, that they've given a new lease of life, where others said, they've had guns put into their mouths under Dalli's watch, allegations that still have to be proven. Either way, inmates have started a hunger strike. The Home Affairs Ministry will be monitoring them to make sure that they're healthy and that they don't, end up in some type of coma or something like this. But I think, many, many people were surprised by this, Tim, right? This comes as word of a petition within the prison by prisoners calling for Alex Dalli to be reinstated is emerging as well.
Well, obviously the problem is that the prison is probably the most secretive location in Malta, so everything that we hear about it comes out through word of mouth, through reports of what people say goes on in there. And like you said, Alex Dully has been praised by some people, even publicly. People call him, this is what a prison needs. Like let's be very frank over here. The prison has some very dangerous characters in there. This is where the worst players of society are placed. Murderers, rapists, pedophiles, they're all there in one small village. So it makes sense that you need a strong person to lead them, to be in charge. It is what it is. Has he gone too far? This is the big question. There have been many reports, some which he has denied as well. There's this famous punishment chair, this latest one, he put a gun in someone's mouth, that he created those conditions that made the mental health of prisoners deteriorate to the point that they would commit suicide. In fact, there is an inquiry ongoing. But I was quite, it is quite telling that some prisoners are going on hunger strike. It is the only way, or the only serious way a prisoner can protest. It's happened many times before.
Jürgen Fennick had gone on
Yeah,
strike
exactly,
himself, right?
exactly. So because they don't have much power, right? A prisoner, it's that they can't. What can they do? The only way they can make people take notice of them is by refusing food.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is going to grow, though, because there's obviously quite a few prisoners. 10 isn't that many. But I wonder if it's going to grow into more of a stronger movement. But if it does, then I think certain narratives of the prison will have to be not necessarily questioned, but definitely challenged and put into perspective. Moving on, so kind of an interesting story. Renowned actor Mario Micallef has called out fellow actress Mariuszka Aquilina, best known for her role as Gladys on the TV show Deceduti, over her stance on the COVID-19 vaccine. So recently, Mariuszka Aquilina published quite a controversial Facebook post where she said, like, yes, I have COVID-19. I'm currently in quarantine. I have been for 8 days. I feel like I just have a cold. And for those who are asking, no, I have not taken the vaccine. I feel that the world is getting too obsessed with this vaccine. Yes, some people got sick with the virus and unfortunately died, but it's equally so, some people got sick with the vaccine and ended up dying. Now, Mario Micallef is speaking obviously from a position of experience. He got the virus himself earlier this year and got it really badly. He ended up having to spend around 2 weeks in ITU and slipped into a coma. And he told her quite respectfully that, I'm disappointed that I wasn't eligible to get vaccinated by the time I got the virus, or else I wouldn't have gone through what I did. So, if the vaccine wasn't effective, as you're claiming it wasn't, the numbers in Malta wouldn't have gone down as soon as people started getting vaccinated. And there is truth to what he's saying. Like, let's be honest, that Malta is very heavily vaccinated, and the COVID-19 situation is completely stable. Even though we're in November, which is winter season, where it's meant to be at its worst, we don't have 2 people in ITU. So compared to other places which are less vaccinated, the situation isn't as good as it is over here. So that's a reality as well. It's also true that has to be said that people did suffer side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine. Not everyone, but some people did, and it is something to take into account. It doesn't mean I still highly believe that the pros of the vaccine outweigh the cons big time, but there are people who have suffered these side effects. I don't think they should be ignored either.
I think a lot of people reacted to Mariuszka Aquilina's status because of the tone she took more than anything. She made a few jokes here and there. She said, if you want a booster, I have a booster on my roof. And she kind of made very, very light-hearted comments when the reality is 462 people have died of COVID-19 related issues on the island. Malta is extremely vaccinated. The reality is, though, there are still 2 people in ITU. People are suffering. Some people have died from it. So I think it was the tone that she took, the lightheartedness, like, I got COVID, who cares, la 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 la. A lot of people it didn't land well with many people, especially Mario Micallef himself, who I'm sure his family weren't very happy when he was battling COVID-19 in bed, not feeling very well. So, it just goes to show, be careful of the tone, especially when people have died, of the tone that you're using when you're discussing a subject. You might really hurt some people, even unintentionally. Moving on to the next story, a very interesting story, a bit of statistical story coming from the National Statistics Office. Maltese tourists spend the most in one particular country when they travel in the EU, and that is Holland. So Holland, the Netherlands, is the country that Maltese tourists spend the most in when they travel for holidays. They spend, on average, 1,018 euros. Now, I don't know if maybe that could be because of their cannabis approach in Holland. Obviously, Maltese people travel to Amsterdam and Holland and the Netherlands often because of the cannabis acceptance they have there. You have coffee shops there. Aside from that, obviously, you've got beautiful architecture, incredible museums. You've got these canals. You've got the bike culture. There's many things attracting one to Amsterdam and the Netherlands. But second to the Netherlands, travelers spent most money in the United Kingdom, 845 euros. And after that, it goes to Spain, France, Germany, and Italy, all ranging between 800 and 600 euros. Were you surprised that the Netherlands is the number one highest spending country for Maltese travelers in Europe?
I was quite surprised. I don't think it's the most expensive country to live in, right? I mean, it's more expensive than Malta, but it's not the most expensive country. Like, you can find relatively cheap accommodation. So, and even traveling is very easy as well within the country. It might be because of the weed, maybe. It might be, in which case Bernard Grech, pay attention. It might also be because they might want to visit, to take a longer train ride up to the beautiful town of Heathrow in the north.
One of your favorite towns, right?
Yes.
There's lots of reasons to visit.
Yes, there's lots of reasons. I've visited it many times myself. I never spent 1,018 euro, I don't to admit, but I mean, maybe they just like as well to stay in one of the beautiful hotels in the center of Amsterdam as well.
Absolutely. Let us know in the comments below, when you go travel yourselves, where do you often spend most money? Do you find yourself spending most money in European countries, when you're traveling outside of Europe, maybe to the Middle East or Americas? And were you surprised that the Netherlands was the number one most expensive places, or where we spend the most money? It's not necessarily most expensive, where we spend the most money as travelers. Let us know in the comments below.
And finally, Malta hitting the international news again, unfortunately for the wrong reasons. This time it's on the Telegraph. The Telegraph, one of the UK's of leading newspapers, published a whole feature about the island's incessant uglification, which they called an orgy of overdevelopment. Now, they spoke about the whole country, but specifically they zoomed in on Gozo. This was because of the recent controversial knocking down of a boathouse in Schlendi Bay to be replaced by a block of apartments right on the coast. And they spoke to a number of people there. They spoke to a waitress in Schlendi who said, and I quote, "They're greedy, they want more, it's like the mafia, they do whatever they want." They also spoke to Alex Torpiano, the professor of architecture, who said that governments have become afraid to rein in the greed of big business, who don't have any alternative investment opportunities to offer, so they just keep building. But it's extremely short-sighted because it's destroying Malta's quality of life. Now, I really don't like seeing these kind of features on the international press about Malta, obviously, because it doesn't look good, right? These are people who might have never even been to the country, who might be looking to come here on holiday, who might be looking to recommend it, and at the end of the day, Malta is a tourism paradise. It is the main source of our economy, more than development is. So if we're going to get a reputation, Malta still has a reputation of being the island of sun, sea, and paradise, a paradise island. Sometimes they get for granted, I think, about how beautiful our country is and how people from other countries love visiting us. And they love Malta for that reason, not because of the apartments going up and the concrete over there. So obviously, that doesn't mean Malta should stay in the Stone Age and not to develop at all, or that should just remain in a cocoon. Definitely not.
No, you raise a very fair point, and Malta is a beautiful country, especially for people who come from abroad to these really developed countries. However, at the same time, developments in Gozo, we've got Arb, Ala, Schlendi. I mean, who knows what else we've got coming over in the next weeks and months. we might be losing the exact reason that Malta was so attractive to foreigners in the first place. So I never like seeing Malta in the international headlines in such a negative light. However, if this maybe leads to a new approach to development in ODZ lands, especially in the sister island of Gozo, which is still a very quaint island, very rural island, I wouldn't be unhappy to see that. But I just found it very interesting that they spoke to a spokesperson from Malta's environmental agency who insisted that, Malta is not overdeveloped. So let us know in the comments below, whether you think Malta and Gozo are overdeveloped or not. I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. As always, from myself and Tim, have an evening full of lovin'.